So hopefully you can all hear me. Each week I also have a different technical issue that I have to deal with. This week we have the amazing Paul Ramsay. And I met Paul a couple of years ago in Vegas, and an absolutely great guy. We're going to talk about how things are over in the States, a bit about Paul's history and how he became to be a stage hypnotist, some general chit chat, and talk about how he's hijacked our good English language and changed it into something crazy that means different things. And Paul has a great concept about stage hypnosis. Now, when I saw Paul kind of talk and demonstrate this in Vegas a couple of years ago, I remember leaving that seminar thinking that's a concept that I need to steal and bring to the UK and get all the credit for it. But I didn't do that. But Paul will go through that in a bit. So first things first, without further ado, let me introduce you, stage hypnotist extraordinaire, Paul Ramsay.
Hey, buddy. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so glad to be able to hang out with you.
For Paul. Let me have a
muted.
1 second. Here he is. Do we have sound? We don't have sound. Oh, no. Let me 1 second, Paul. Let me just refresh it. If you can just come back in, that would be fine. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can't hear you. I'm going to bring you out and then refresh. I know. There's always something. Last week it was me. There we go. I'm going to bring you out. If you could click the link and come back in. So whilst Paul figures out how to click the link and come back in, I shall talk to you for a few more seconds about Paul. Paul's got a great energy and does a lot of stuff over in the States. And he's also got a great thing. Oh, it's here now. Let's bring. Hey, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now. There you go. Yay.
Technology is our friend.
Yeah, according to Alana, she says she could hear you, but I couldn't. But the way I see it is, I'm the man with the buttons. So if I can't hear you, you're out of here. Every week, one week this will go a fight. Now, when it comes to going live and streaming and stuff like that, you're probably one of the foremost guys doing that at the moment. You're going live every day.
It's true. I am going live every day. It's Be the
Naked Truth.
Yeah. My show with Ifat Monday through Friday. Plus, I've got some other stuff here and there, but I've been really focused mostly on that and some other projects outside of the stage world. But I like doing it. I enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah, I must admit, it's some. A lot of people with what's happened. A lot of people have pivoted and gone online. And what you find, and probably people think this about watching this show, you find out week one, all the friends and people watch. And it's cool. And then week 2 comes along and like the numbers are down. And then week 3, no one can be bothered anymore.
Everyone wants a distraction, right? They'll try it at first.
Exactly. But I must admit, your lives, it's something I try and catch every day. It's great content and delivered really well. The chemistry between you two is absolutely fabulous. So anyone gets a chance, check out Paul's socials. I'll just put up the link to it there. That's bethenakedtruth.com. I must admit, when I first saw the URL, I thought it was going to be something else.
Right.
I'm in for this.
We have this common language, and yet it's not as common as you might think. You told me that we would go on at 3:10 because first you had to go give the clap to the health workers, and in America, if you get the clap, that's getting chlamydia. And I was like, I don't know what you're up to, Grant, but I don't think that's going to help them any.
Well, I don't know. It's I must admit there is we do. It was an old reference, but we used to do that. But here in the UK, every week we applaud the NHS and the key workers for doing such a wonderful job. It's a great way socially that if we clap for them, our government doesn't have to give them any more money. So,
much better than what I thought you were doing, and that's good. Okay,
so I don't have the energy or the time for that. Do you know what I mean? But if anybody's watching that's a nurse or works for the NHS, I'm open to offers. So this show's probably about stage hypnosis and the likes and hypnotists as such. First things first, how long have you been a stage hypnotist, and what was your first experience? What kind of made you go, I want to do that?
Oh, well, that's funny that so I can't answer it quite the way the question is framing it, but I can't answer it. So my first experience was when I was in my 11th year of school, my junior year of high school in America. We had a stage hypnotist come in and do a show as a fundraiser for our National Honor Society. But when I saw it, I thought it was cool, but it didn't even enter my mind for an instant that I would end up doing that job. It was not, I gave it no consideration at all. I thought it was cool. And then my first year at university, in my dormitory, we had a guy come in and do a little show right in our main lounge. And the lady who ran my dormitory, she brought him every year. So I saw him 4 years in a row at university, and I still never, ever thought of doing it. It just didn't seem like a real option for me. And I thought I was like, oh, that's cool. That's whatever. So that's 5 times I saw live stage hypnotism without a live demonstrational hypnotism without ever doing it. Right. Then I got out of university. I went and I taught, I was an English teacher, a secondary school. So I went and I taught 10th grade English for a while. Then I got out of that. I went back to the university that I had attended, and I worked there running a dormitory. So I hired that guy and brought him in to do it as a social program for my students. And the 3rd year, so now you're up to, I've seen 7 different instances of demonstrational hypnotists. The 3rd year, I was hanging out with him after he got done. The students had left. We were hanging out and talking. And he told me a story about he had never had a paid stage show in his 18 years of his career as a hypnotist. He had only done demonstrations to draw leads for client work. Wow. And so now he was retired, and he did it just for something to do and make a little pocket money. And he'd do these demonstrations to tell the students about, okay, this is fun, but think about this. And he'd talk about how they could really use it to make their life better. So we were talking about that. And he told me this story about an interesting client that he had at one point. And I said, man, that's cool. I'd love to learn how to do that. And he's like, I'll teach you. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't think it'd go that, like, he goes, I'll teach you. I think you'd be really good at it. And I put him off for an entire year. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Let me think about it. The next year he came in again. I knew I was getting to the end of that job. And I was like, so is that offer still good? And he was like, yeah. He goes, I really think you'd be good at it. So I started meeting with him. His name was Bob Chase. I don't even know. He's an older gentleman, so I don't even know if he's still with us anymore. I hope he is. I should follow up with him. I talked with him a couple of years ago, but I haven't talked with him in a couple of years. He taught me the basics. I started practicing with my students. I sent out an email to my whole dormitory and said, I'm working on learning hypnotism. If you want to know what it's like, come on down. And it was like a revolving door. Like they're in on the couch. And mostly they'd come in and say, I had a stressful day. Can I just do some hypnosis for a little bit? And we'd do it just for stress relief. But that showed me how quick it could be, how effective it could be, how they would get a relief immediately from doing that. And I was literally getting to the end I was like, I can't keep doing this job. I had finished my next degree, which was supposed to be for teaching. And I knew I didn't want to go back to teaching. I was laying in bed, Grant, one night, and I just was like, what am I going to do? Like, now I have 2 degrees to be a teacher, and I don't want to be a teacher anymore. Like, I'm not going to go to college all over again for a 3rd time. And so all of a sudden I just, let's say like having a light bulb moment. It really was. It was like, bing. And I was like, you could be an entertainer and you could help people the way these other jobs you've been doing because you wanted to help people work. You could do it all within one job. And so I was like, yes. And so I went, I got certified, and that was 2004. And I immediately, when I got done with my contract here at the university, I knew that if I kept my day job, I wouldn't take the hypnotism job seriously. I quit the day job and I went fully into hypnotism. And so that's 16 years ago. So 16 years later, here I am.
It's so weird, the difference of the experience between the UK market and the American market, because you guys have always had a really great relationship with stage hypnosis. You perform in high schools. It's seen as a very positive thing. Unfortunately, in the UK, in the 90s, we kind of had some stuff happen, and it got a really bad rep. And now you talk to people about stage hypnosis, and it is still very much like, oh no, it's creepy, it's weird, it does get a bad rep here. So
we get that here too, though, Grant. We get that. Yeah. I get people every show who will say something like that before the show starts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the mysticism and some of that stuff, I think that helps what we do. But I mean, I can work audiences now, and they don't know what stage hypnotist is. You know, who's ever seen a stage hypnotist? Oh, I've seen Darren Brown on TV.
Yeah.
You know, they've got no point of reference of what that is. And when you try and explain that can face some challenge sometimes. So it would be nice if we could kind of, you know, get them early and show them how much fun stage hypnosis can be.
We're so focused on being entertained here. It's so pervasive that we've gotten to sort of a luxurious point in our history of stage hypnotism in America, where, you know, it used to be cruise ships, independent theaters, you know, colleges. Now it's a standard form of entertainment for like secondary school, like when they have their prom, you know, they have a after prom party and they'll have it at that, or when they graduate, they'll have an after graduation party and they'll have it at that. Like it's, you know, we'll do fundraiser shows for their sports teams or their class trips or stuff like that. So like the exposure really now comes all the way down to like 14-year-old kids.
Wow.
And then goes from there. So we're really, and that's happening a lot now. So I think you're going to get this whole generation of people who are like really, really comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, we don't work high schools. We've in the UK, we've got the stage hypnosis licensing, which is a very political point of a lot of stage hypnotists. There's ways, it's never been proven in a court of law, but there's ways around it, and it just makes it difficult and complicated.
Yeah.
But it's a great form of entertainment, and done right, I think it's one of the best forms of entertainment that's out there. You know, there's nothing funnier than seeing your friends doing silly things. In the UK, and I'm sure you guys have it as well, we do have a lot of guys that are you know, not necessarily entertainers doing hypnosis. And the problem with that is, you know, people get a bad experience of it. So, you know, they see one hypnotist that is not necessarily funny or very good, and then they kind of think that's all stage hypnosis is exactly the same. So
cheap effects, you know, that
yes.
let's cut right to it. You know, like what it really is a lack of craft. That means the operator goes for cheap effects, and that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. It's the easiest. It's like slapstick comedy, which I laugh at slapstick comedy, but it's a little different with hypnosis, right? Like in a movie, you seeing a guy get kicked in the nuts, and it makes you laugh, you know, but you're like, you don't want to hypnotically make someone think they got kicked in the nuts. No. Right. Like yet there's a lot of people doing stuff like that, getting pricked by needles or seeing spiders or mice or things that you're afraid of, and a lot of this stuff to get that initial visceral reaction. And you go, but they're having a shitty experience right now. It's funny for everyone else. It's not funny for them. Like I that stuff drives me crazy. Just makes me cringe.
I mean, one, I think you can be funny without being offensive. You know, that if you can do that, that's easy. It's easy to go for the cheap laugh or the reaction. And as a performer, if you're insecure about your ability to entertain, then when you get that response from the audience, you think, oh, I'm doing brilliant. You know, the audience went wild. But for me, it's about that. It's about getting booked again.
Yes.
You know, and you know, if they see the show and go, oh, that was fun, you know, it wasn't degraded. I want to give that a try next time and experience it.
Right.
And then that way you hope, touch wood, you get the rebookings and the rebookings and rebookings. So, yeah. When we spoke in Vegas, I remember we were talking about USPs, you know, what makes your show different. And I remember you telling me about the story that you were speaking to an agent that kind of said, you know, your show's great. What makes it different from somebody else? And we've got a clip of your mind game show. I'm going to play that now, and then you can tell us all. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but we can talk
it's cool.
about
I get
afterwards.
you. Yeah.
Good. Mind Games breaks the mold of stage hypnotism and provides a whole new experience for audiences. Paul Ramsay hypnotizes ordinary, everyday people while they're still sitting in the audience, allowing their friends and family to witness the transformation up close. Then, the audience is given remote control polling devices, and they get to vote on what scenarios should take place on stage. What happens from there? Well, that's up to you.
Amazing. I absolutely love the concept and how it's delivered. That interaction between the audience. How did you come up with the idea?
Well, it was that meeting with my agent. It all started with that. I mean, I sat with him and he said, you're good at what he said, to pick on your earlier language. He didn't say your show's great. He said, you're great at what you do. He said, but there's nothing special about your show. And he was totally right. I was running a pretty traditional stage show at that point. So we sat that day and we brainstormed ideas. And he said, look, each generation, each 4-year cohort, not even a generation, each 4-year cohort of college students is more technologically savvy than the one that came before it. So if that's what they know and what they love, why don't you incorporate it? They're more and more used to using technology to interact with the world. And so at first I thought, all right, well, I don't know about the technology, but I can at least make it more interactive. So what I literally did at first, Grant, was I had quarter sheets of paper and golf pencils. And before the show, I would print out these sheets that would have like 5 questions on them. And then they were in quarters, and I'd cut them into quarters, and I'd go out before the show and I'd hand them out to the kids who were in the audience with a golf pencil. And then 2 minutes before the show started, I'd run around and collect them all. And then during the show, I'd say, all right, here's what we're going to do next. And I would just choose I'd randomly pick a thing and I'd choose what the kid said and I'd build it. Right. And it was just way too cumbersome. It was way too cumbersome. And then I was visiting with a friend from when I was working at the uni, and she was asking me how it was going. I was sitting with her and her husband having a beer, and she goes, how's your show going? And I was like, well, it's cool because I know I have the right idea, but the implementation's wrong and it's too common. I was telling, and she was working at the university still, and she saw that they had started to use these remote controls in the classrooms. And so she goes, why don't you just use the remote controls? And I was like, what? And she goes, they all have these remote controls now in class. They take quizzes with them. It's how they keep track of their attendance. So and I was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And I was like, yes. And so I went and I bought the remote controls and I moved it all to that voting format. Yeah. And it just crushed. It just, I literally doubled my business the first year. Yeah. I doubled my bookings. And then I got, here in the States, we have these middleman festivals where the middleman is an organization that brings together the college buyers and the artists, right? And they put on these little festivals, and you can showcase your show. You have to apply and pay a fee, but if you get picked, you showcase your show. Well, what determines whether you get picked or not is if you're offering something different. So once I had that concept, I applied to 3 showcases a year for 3 years straight. And in 3 years out of the 9 showcases I applied to, I got 6 of them. Nice. And so again, everything just went like it just took off like crazy. I got to a point where I even phased out a couple of years ago. I phased out the remote controls because I finally found an app. There had been apps before, but they wouldn't do everything I wanted them to do. And then finally I discovered Kahoot, and Kahoot was built for education. So it allowed you to do polling, but it had a nice visual interface as well. So I got to a point where I could pay for a license for that, very reasonable. And now my audiences can just download the app for free to their phone, and they can vote in real time. And I can have up to 1,000 people voting per show. And it's just gotten better. But of course, then it all went away. So
and then it saves people stealing the remotes as well, especially if they're doing it on their own phone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not so much the stealing. People fiddle with them and they break them because they're just fiddling or stupid stuff. Yeah.
After seeing you kind of demonstrate it in Vegas, the moment I got back, I'm like trying to contact app developers. And I'm like, well, I need something that can do this. I don't want to give out remotes to work some venues. Yeah. And the app development was really expensive. So I thought that's how it worked. And now I do a lot of holiday parks. So that, the audience is very young sometimes. They don't volunteer, obviously. But I thought, you know what, I need to bring this concept to the holiday parks. And I thought, I know, I'll use Twitter. So I'll have the display up, and then I'll say to people, if you want to tweet your suggestions, tweet them, use this hashtag, it'll appear on the screen, and then that's the suggestion that we'll do.
How'd that go?
At first, genius. But then you take into account, you're asking the general public that have had alcohol to tweet their suggestions to a holiday park audience. So it was fair to say about 10, 15 minutes into that, it was just like, just unplug the screen.
Too much autonomy,
unplug
right?
the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, it's like, no, you need something. I think that's the reason why I didn't roll it out over here. It was just like, no, take that off. You guys.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's terrible all at the same time.
Luckily, I managed to save the contract for that particular venue, but it was just like, wow. There's nothing worse than having children in the front row of the audience and seeing swear words appearing behind you.
Yeah,
like,
right?
No.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can imagine, things are very different. Things probably the same over there now, but our business is very different now to how it was. How are you pivoting? How are you changing what you're doing at the moment?
So for the moment, my pivot is I'm just assuming that I'm not going to work on stage for the rest of this calendar year. And if I'm wrong about that, I'll be happy to be wrong. It's not anything I'm rooting for, but I just think when you look at, and I'm keeping in touch with the people. I primarily perform in the college market. So I think they're a pretty good barometer, because they've got real liability issues with other people's children attending their institutions, and they're really, trying to look at it all. And so I keep checking in with I have certain clients, the Juilliard School in New York City, the Performing Arts School. I've been their opening week entertainment for 16 straight years. So I have a great relationship with them. I can, check in and see where are you at? What are you talking about? I've got that kind of stuff that I can do. And what most of my people I've checked in on are saying is, well, we're probably going to open in the fall, but even if we do, we're not going to have group events. Yeah. And so it's confirmed so far what I thought. They're going to err on the side of caution. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm not going to spend time trying to do something that relates to something I can't control. What can I control? I am a board certified hypnotist. I have more skill sets than stage. And so, I've worked on, my big thing is I have two things that I'm working. I was telling you before we started, I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my whole career, really, hours wise. I'm building a small business mentorship for hypnotists. That what I found was, I was like, look, if you've got downtime, this is a great time to revamp your business, get your business more organized, strengthen your brand, change your infrastructure for how your business works. And so I've run into a lot of colleagues who are still, even though they've been hypnotists for years, they're not doing that stuff. They don't have a solid business infrastructure. And that's one thing I have been, smart enough to do well over the years. So I'm mentoring hypnotists on that now. And then my other big thing, my moonshot thing, Grant, is I'm building an online site, an online community that is not, it's primarily hypnosis focused, but not just hypnosis focused. It's a wellness community is what it really is. And the idea is to break again. I want to do things differently. And one of the things that drives me crazy is how often I see hypnotists selling primarily to other hypnotists. There are times when it's appropriate and right to sell to hypnotists. I get that, but I think there's too much of that. And I was like, I'm not going to add to that. There's already enough of that. So I'm going after the 8 billion people that are on the planet that have problems that need help. And so we're building a site that's community-based, that's membership-based, that's going to actually network other hypnotists. That's the other big thing is I'm like, I'm not going to keep trying to do everything myself. I'm not going to try to be the smoking guy, the weight loss guy, the golf guy, right? And what I'm going to do is say, we can do this together and have a greater effect than we can have on our own. And so I'm coordinating with other hypnotists and getting them to focus on one thing. And I'm letting them be the expert in that one thing on this site. And we're going to all pitch together and really try to help other human beings live happier, healthier, more abundant lives by all taking a team approach. And I'm super excited about it. It's a big deal for me to be working on it. Yeah.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing that. One thing I kind of got into the habit of asking people, and it's just because I know a lot of hypnotists are kind of, we all have book addictions. So if you were to have your 2 books whether it be stage or for therapy, the 2 most influential books that you think every hypnotist should have on their shelf?
Oh, I have so many books. So it's funny, you know, when I got into stage work, the first stage book I read was Orman McGill's New Encyclopedia of Stage Hypnosis, right?
Yeah.
And I met Orman, and I didn't know him well, but I had the honor of meeting him in the final year of his life. He was amazing. And so that's a book that I'm sort of sentimentally attached to. It is, it's still a solid book. I don't know if I would really say, a lot of people for a long time said it's the Bible. And I'm like, maybe not. I don't know. It's a good book though. It's a great place to start.
It's a great reference, and it's really thick. You know, there's a lot of content in there. And some of the stuff I know, some of the stuff you go and you go, I don't know. It's moved on a lot since then.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think you've still got to go there and kind of go, yeah. And at different stages of my career, I've gone back to it, and you kind of look at it differently, you know, at different times in that career sort of thing. So I think for me, it was the Bible, and now it's a reference book. Yeah.
You know
what I mean? And sometimes I look at it and go, what, really?
Yeah. So, and I think that's going to happen. And, you know, like things do age and context changes. And, the other book, I'll tell you, the only book, as far as I'm aware of myself, the only book that I reread at least a portion, if not the whole thing of every year, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh,
yeah. Right. And
that's my gift book.
Yeah.
You know, along my journey, and you meet some people along the way, tend to be younger, you know, full of all the ambition in the world, and they're going to take over the world. And you just go, here's that book, read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's an important, I really treasure that book. Yeah.
I think the first personal development book I was given years ago was The Magic of Thinking Big, which is a great book. Oh, it was part of the I'm sure you have it, Amway.
Oh no.
Well, it was a guy that was involved in that gave me the Magic of Thinking Big, a great book. And the second one was the Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, and it's just phenomenal.
What's funny about the age we live in, a lot of times when I talk books with people, people will mention a book, especially fiction, and I'll go, no, I haven't read that, and they're like, you're an English teacher, and I'm like, do you really understand the scale of the time we live in and how much has been created? Like, you can't get to it all. Like you just can't. And so it's funny how people end up, there's so many great things out there, but you just can't get to them all, which is sad in some ways, but also it's fun because you think, well, I can try. You know? Yeah.
Oh, most of it, you know, I mean, I love my book collection, but loads of it now, I don't get time to read, you know, like I used to. But you know, I think a great book can change your life. Yeah, you know, like you said, you go back to it and you read it again and you read it again. And it's for the people that are into like Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. You know, I mean, that's based on Napoleon Hill's work, or a lot of it has its foundations there. So it's a lot of people kind of get the classics, revamp them, rehash them, and put them out like a new TV series, if you know what I mean.
Do you have a Bible of stage hypnotism?
Was that Delaware?
No, I just mean metaphorically speaking. Do you have one that serves as your Bible of stage hypnotism? If it's not Orman's, is there one that does, or do you just not have that at all?
The one that had the most impact on me, or where things started to kind of go, oh yeah, that makes a bit more sense, was Jonathan Chase's book, Deeper and Deeper. Great book. And again, it was from a working hypnotist point of view.
Yeah.
I think a lot of stage hypnosis books are done from a theory point of view.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stage hypnotists that want to have that they want to create that Bible of stage hypnosis.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is do you know what I mean? There's a couple of books out there that just wind me up, because you read it and you go, yeah, that's because you've read that in a book. You've not been on stage and done that. Right. And I think you can tell sometimes. We had a guy on last week. Chris Doc Strange. He's got a great book on stage hypnosis, and again, it's from that from a gigging hypnotist point of view. But yeah, Jonathan Chase is a British guy.
I don't know him personally. I've interacted with him on social over the years.
Yeah, he's very direct. In fact, there was a thing for HypnoBiz went out on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and I'm speaking there virtually as such, and it's like stage hypnosis for the hypnotherapist, performance hypnosis, and Jonathan Chase just wrote underneath it, interesting ? And I thought, oh, I'm not gonna get into it. I love how dramatic our industry can be sometimes. Andrew Newton, who's a British stage hypnotist who taught Paul McKenna, has a great book. I believe it's called Mind. It might be called Mind Games, actually, by Andrew Newton. But yeah, again, that's a great book. But Andrew seems to really dislike British stage hypnotists. He's I think, I mean, as you can see, I've got a beard. I don't normally have a beard. I normally just have the goatee.
Right.
Or as Andrew calls it, if you think that vagina on your chin makes you somehow dynamic, you're mistaken.
Wow.
Oh, cheers, Andrew.
Okay.
But Andrew is a great stage hypnotist. It's old school. The first half of his show is old school, but it's delivered with great timing. But I always recommend UK hypnotists to go and see him. However, Andrew has this USP that he actually employs security at his shows. And if he knows there's a stage hypnotist in there, security will come and have you removed from the theatre.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He's very protective over his material. But he is a great, it pains me to say it, but he is a phenomenal stage hypnotist. But yeah.
How far are you going to go? How long are you going to do it?
Do you know what? If you'd have asked me this 6 months ago, it was like, I want to take over the world, same as everybody else. Do you know what I mean? And I've by some accounts, I'm quite successful at this.
Yeah.
But like this, with my pivot, it's kind of made me go, right, well, there's only so many stages I can perform on at a time. There's only so many days in the week. There's only so many miles I can do. I mean, I travel ridiculous mileage on my car. I travel all over the world, which is quite nice. I've done a few cruise ships, which is lovely. But the reality is, like sitting at home and creating a product that can then be out there, actually giving something to the community rather than just performing on stage and going, look at me, I'm special. I'm finding more value in that. But I don't know if that's just my laziness kicking in, where I think, you know what, the idea of making an income and staying at home, I like this. But I love, I mean, you'll be exactly the same. There's no better feeling than that when you're on stage, Yeah,
and it's funny, like, I think I'm over it. Like, I've done it for 16 years. I've done it. The only stuff I haven't done cruise ships, and I haven't done Vegas, and really that's because I never tried. I just never tried. I probably could have if I had tried.
I got a phone call. My best friend Alan will watch this at some point. He always watches them back later on just to make sure. I tend not to slag him off, but he always comes into the conversation somehow. He used to be my sound guy that looked after my sound and looked after my stage, and then he realized he could make more money as a sound person and went off and set up his own company. It's like, cheers, Al. Absolutely phenomenal guy. His wedding was coming up a couple of years ago. And in the run up to it, Alan always jokes because if a show comes in on a cruise ship or anything like that, I'm gone. That's my priority. And I got an email, and I was with Alan at the time, and the email was from, I'm not saying who it was, but it's someone like, listen, I need someone to cover my show. Is there any chance you could do it? As a Vegas show, could you do it? As a performer, it is what you want to do to perform Vegas. I had to do 3 dates. One of those dates was Alan's wedding. And I'm looking at the email and I'm looking at Alan and I thought, surely he would understand.
You had to think about it.
I thought about it, but then literally I messaged back saying I can't do that date or that date. And the message came back going, listen, and the message was quite abrupt by going, listen, I'm offering you this. You either do all the dates or none. And I'm like, I can't do it. And I've come back and I've said to Alan, I've gone, I've just turned down a gig in Vegas for you. And he went, oh, cheers. And I'm not bitter, but to this day, I always think, I should be in Vegas now, but I'm not. That would have been my moment. Oh my so yeah, but yeah. I mean, how quickly do you think Vegas will bounce back?
I mean, I think Vegas is in probably one of the group areas in which I'd say they're in the most trouble because not only is all their stuff based around group gathering, like even if you just think, well, no, gambling, I just sit there. Yeah, you go sit there in a giant room with a bunch of other people. Like even, you sit in a slot machine, you got people on, like no matter what, like they're all their stuff, restaurants, buffets, like it's all built around large groups of people being together all the time. So, and then how do most people get there? They have to fly. Like surely some people do drive, but most folks are flying there. And I think even though flying is happening right now, you have to go, but how comfortable do people feel with it? And so, I think flying is going to take quite a while to recover because of people's fears. And so you add that to that. I think they're, they're in tough shape, I think.
Coming back from a gig November last year, via Ethiopia. You've got to love agents. Do you know what I mean? It's like, can we send him direct from here to here? No, let's send him via Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That's a lovely that's a lovely airport. And it's exactly what you would expect it to be. And I remember I've got on the plane for Ethiopia Airlines. And literally when they've shut the doors before we've took off, people have walked down the cabin with disinfectant and we're spraying it over all the people. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. That's spraying disinfectant over people. But I think that's going to become the norm now on flights,
Yeah. Again, it's one of those themes that I keep talking about on the show, like every week we come back to at some point is, I don't think any of us can appreciate how many variables are really interacting and how that will ripple out into, everyday life. And the one example I used with her in one episode is I said, look, it only took a guy trying to smuggle a bomb into his shoe one time for us to have to take our shoes off at the airport.
Yeah.
For now, how many years, And no one's ever done it since. And yet you go, well, if you're in the pre-check line, okay, but still there's people every time they fly who have to take their shoes off because a guy did something one time. So I think about that kind of stuff and I go, we just don't know. We just don't know. And we got to try to just, be as flexible as we can be. I think the big thing that I keep trying to come back to, Grant, whether it's if you do get the chance to work in stage again, or if you decide, you know what, I'm not going to work stage, I'm just going to pivot and go to this other thing. No matter what, there's this amazing opportunity for us to just get our shit together and try to start helping people more.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, right? And to get to say enough's enough. Like we need to make some changes in our culture and focus on human beings being kind to one another again and trying to help each other more. And I don't know if people are going to get that. Some act like they get it. That's the thing I just keep coming back to is, is how can you make whatever you do, even if it's a show, you go, it's not just about making people laugh. Yeah. Can you make them laugh and encourage them to bring some kindness somehow? I don't know.
Well, on that bombshell, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure once again to speak to you. And I know that I shall see you on your Be the Naked Truth, which is not what you think it is.
That's right. That's right.
Don't go there looking for that. You will be disappointed. But once you get over that, it's great content.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
My dog looks, timing's perfect. My dog wants to go outside. So, hey, thank you for having me. And please,
thank you for being
I
on.
love talking with you, and I'm happy to talk shop with you. If you ever want to do it again, you just let me know. Okay.
Fantastic, Paul. Take care.
All right, brother.